You're listening to the Evolved Men Podcast, episode number 7. Are you ready to break free from hesitation, self-doubt, and isolation? Do you want to lead with confidence, build powerful connections, and live boldly? I'm Corey Baum, and I'm here to share the most impactful strategies and mindsets that I've learned through coaching, leadership, and real-world experience. Together, we'll forge unshakable confidence, master social dynamics, and create a life rooted in purpose, brotherhood, and bold action. Inside, you'll get the tools and insights to become the strongest, most connected version of yourself. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Evolved Men Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Baum. This is where we talk about the real work of becoming the man that you were made to be. Most of us spend our days moving fast. We show up, we provide, we handle things, but somewhere along the way, we stop checking in with the one person who matters most in our equation, ourselves. Not in a selfish way, in a grounded, honest way. Because the truth is that you can't lead yourself with strength if you're disconnected from what actually gives you life. And that's what today's episode is about. Not performance, not pressure, just presence, clarity, and the simple but powerful practice of looking at your life and seeing what's really there. Where are you aligned? Where are you looking at your life and seeing what's actually there? Where are you aligned? Where are you energized? And where might something need to shift? You don't need a crisis to make that check-in meaningful. You just need a moment of intention. Let's take that moment together right now. So the night that I got curious, right, it wasn't a breakdown, it wasn't a crisis. It was just a quiet, long night after a long week, right? The kids were asleep, the house was finally still, and instead of reaching for the TV or my phone, I just sat there, right? Not for long, maybe, 5 minutes or so, but long enough for a question to surface that I hadn't asked in quite a while, right? And that was, what's actually working in my life right now? Not what's broken, not what needs fixing, just what's working. At first, I didn't know how to answer it, right? I could feel the urge to list all the things that I hadn't done, all the areas that I wanted to be better, all the ways that I thought that I should be more, but I stayed with it. And little by little, the truth came up. Right? I'd shown up with real presence during bedtime stories that week with my kids. I had a moment of laughter with a friend that I hadn't talked to in months. I'd made one small choice with my health that felt like a turning point. Right? They weren't big, dramatic wins, right? But they were real. And for the first time in a while, I didn't feel like I needed to fix everything. I just needed to notice. That's what sparked something. Because when you see what's working, when you name what's powerful or what's meaningful, when you pay attention to the parts of your life that are already aligned, you start to lead from a different place. That night wasn't about shame. It wasn't about pressure. It was about perspective. And perspective is powerful. And that's what this episode is about. Reflection as a way back into clarity, into energy, into direction. Not because your life is falling apart, but because you're ready to live it more fully. Let's dig into it. There's a powerful question that most men never ask themselves. Not because they don't want to, but because they're too busy trying to keep up. And that question is this: what's already strong in my life? And what would happen if I built from there? See, we're taught to find the problem, to fix what's broken, to grind through it until it bends. But what if that mindset, that constant fixing, hustling, analyzing is part of what's actually draining you? What if real momentum doesn't come from effort alone? What if it comes from alignment? Positive psychology has a simple but really profound truth at its core. You don't grow the most by focusing on your weaknesses. You grow the most by identifying what's already strong and leaning into it. That's what reflection is. Not judgment, not correction, just clarity. It's giving yourself the space to check in, to see what's actually working in your life and what isn't. Not from a place of shame, but from a place of ownership. Because you can't lead yourself with power if you don't know where your power already lives. So let's look at that right now. I want you to take a breath and I want you to ask yourself, where am I showing up in a way that I'm proud of? What's one part of my life that feels alive and engaged or meaningful? What have I been doing lately that energizes me, even if it's small? And I want you to start there. Not with the gaps, not with what's missing, but with what's already true and good, because that's your foundation. But don't stop there. Once you've named what's strong, I want you to go one layer deeper. And I want you to ask, what's draining me? Right? What am I tolerating that no longer fits the man that I'm becoming? Where do I feel out of sync with my own values? And that's not weakness. That's feedback. That's your body, your relationships, your calendar. They're all giving you data. Reflection is how you listen to that data without judgment. It's how you interrupt the automatic so that you can lead the intentional. You don't need a dramatic life overhaul. You just need to pay attention. You need to know what season you're in. Because what worked 6 months ago might not be working now. What energized you last year might be draining you today. That doesn't mean that you failed. It means that you've grown. And growth requires recalibration. Here's what I want you to hear. You are already wired for growth. You are capable of momentum. You just need to step back far enough to see what wants to evolve. That's what a life audit is. It's not a performance. It's not a punishment, right? It's a moment of self-leadership. It's you saying, I care enough about my life to actually look at it. Not to criticize, but to realign. Because when a man reflects with intention, he doesn't just get clarity, he gets choice. He stops reacting. He stops defaulting. He stops living someone else's rhythm, and he starts living his. Not from ego, not from pressure, but from purpose. And the beautiful thing, it doesn't take a week-long retreat. It doesn't take quitting your job or making a huge pivot. Sometimes it just takes 20 minutes and 5 good questions. We'll get into those questions in a minute, but for now, let's just let this sink in. You don't need to be more productive. You need to get more connected. Because when a man is connected to himself, his purpose, his values, everything starts to move. And that movement, that's not hustle. That's momentum. Some of you might be saying to yourself, right, this life that I'm living, like it's the result of what I've been choosing, right? Not everything, of course. You didn't choose every circumstance. You didn't control every outcome, but you've been steering, whether consciously or not. And that moment when you own that truth isn't heavy. It's freeing. Because if you've been steering, then you can also change direction. That's the pivot point. That's the real power of reflection. Not just to see where you are, but to choose what comes next. You stop blaming the season. You stop resenting the pace. You stop waiting for permission to care. And instead you say, okay, I see it now. I'm ready to respond. And maybe that response is small. A conversation that you've been putting off. A shift in how you spend the first 10 minutes of your morning. A boundary that you set with yourself, not to be perfect, but to be present. You don't need a full-blown transformation plan. You need a signal. A moment where you say, this matters now. Reflection becomes leadership the moment that you choose to move. Because the goal isn't just awareness, it's ownership. Not for everything, just for what's yours. And when you take ownership, not out of shame, but out of purpose, you start to feel a different kind of strength. The kind that doesn't need to prove anything. The kind that doesn't need to be loud, but the kind that says quietly but clearly, I'm becoming the man that I was meant to be. And that starts with one decision. What will be yours? So here's what I want you to do this week. It's not complicated. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it'll give you clarity. And clarity leads to movement. It's not complicated. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it'll give you clarity. And clarity leads to movement. I want you to set aside 15 to 20 minutes. That's it. No distractions, no notifications, just you and your truth. And I want you to ask yourself these 5 questions. The first one is, where am I winning right now? Right? What's working? Where do you feel aligned or proud or grounded? The second question is, what's energizing me? What is it giving me life and giving me purpose, right? What's, even in small ways, but where do I feel most engaged? The third question is, where am I leaking energy? Right? What's been draining me that I've been tolerating? What am I not living in alignment with who I want to be? And I want you to be honest with where it is that you're out of sync with your own values, right? And then finally, what needs my presence this week? And that's not 10 different things, just one thing. Just the thing that matters the most right now. Write them down or speak them out loud or sit with them in silence, whatever it is that serves you best, right? There's no right way to reflect, only an honest one. And don't try to solve it all. You're not creating a life plan, you're creating awareness. And awareness is the starting point for everything. So once you've answered these questions, pick one thing to shift, one change, one decision, one act of leadership. Maybe it's how you start your day. Maybe it's a boundary you need to reinforce. Maybe it's a conversation that's been waiting in your chest. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be real. Because when a man reflects and responds, he starts building momentum that lasts. All right, guys, that's what I've got for this episode today. If this episode stirred something in you, if it helped you see a part of your life more clearly, if it gave you even one more moment of, yeah, that's what I've been needing to look at, then don't let that moment pass. Take the time, ask the questions, make the one shift. And if you want support as you do that, if you're ready to go deeper and get serious about building the life that you actually want to live, then head over to evolvemenproject.com, where you can download a free copy of A Man's Guide to Self-Leadership. It's a great place to start if you want clarity, direction, and momentum. And if you're ready for real conversation, real coaching, and real change, you can book a free discovery call with me there too. We'll talk honestly about what it is that you want, what's getting in your way, and how to start moving with purpose. No pressure, just a doorway. And hey, if this spoke to you, leave a 5-star review, follow the show, Share the episode with one man in your life who you know is ready to hear it. That's how this message spreads, not through hype, but through men who are ready to lead themselves and invite others to do the same. One conversation at a time, one choice at a time, one man at a time.